Hello, then welcome to this course on joining data with SQL. My name is Valentine and I'll be your instructor. In this course, we're going to be going through a set of concepts in relation to working with multiple tables that you might come across in your line of work. So if you would want probably to join maybe data from 2 tables or 3 tables, then this particular session will be one that is quite relevant for you. Okay, so yeah, so I think the concepts that we are going to be going through, let me quickly reshare that. Just a second to just quickly reshare that. Okay, awesome. So we are going to start off learning about inner joins, then after left join, right join and full join, and then we'll just quickly recap how to do some of the concepts that we'll have learned, do a bit of some operations, just to be able to see how we can be able to use these concepts for data analysis work. Then go into an alternative way for still being able to perform being able to get the results that we would still get from some of the steps that we have here using subqueries. Then talk about set operations. So yeah, so let's get started. The first thing that you need to do is to visit the description section of this video. Click on the practice resource link that should take you to our website. That's Afterwork. Just sign in to be able to access the resource, then click on continue learning, and you will get the sample resource that we're going to use that doesn't have any challenges. If you're an Afterwork member, you can, once you click on the link, you'll get to a page that allows you to just get access to the practice workbook, which will have challenges, and you can be able to use that and practice more. And we encourage everyone to just become an Afterwork member. It allows you to just practice more and more when it comes to some of the emerging technologies or some of the technologies that are crucial when doing data analysis work. So yeah, so let's get started. So once you get here, click on this link, which should open a new PHP My Admin, and you need to use these credentials to log in. Just copy paste them. Make sure you don't have any spaces, trailing spaces or trip spaces at the beginning or the end, and then you can log in. Once you log in, you'll get to see what you're seeing on your screen, which is the dashboard for PHP My Admin, which is a client. It's a program that we can use to access data sources. For this specific case, we're using MySQL. On the left hand side, we're going to use healthcare day2 database. So you can click on that and it should open the this particular page that contains a list of tables in that database. And you can click on SQL at the very top. That's where we're going to write our SQL queries or SQL statements to retrieve data from different tables in this database. All right, so that's what you need to do. And then we can get started. Just pause the video and then do that, and then we can continue. Awesome. So the first concept we will learn is inner join. This involves being able to get records that are in both tables. So we would return records where there's a match between both tables. So in some cases, we might have a column, a common column that is existing, that's existent across both tables. So in a case of, let's say, for example, in a case where we are working with patients and patient visits table, you might have maybe, let me then just go to the database. So patients, on the left hand side, I've just clicked on patients. It will just give us just a few records in terms of patients, which are in the patients table. So we might have this column, patient ID, that's a common across patients, and also patient visits, which I'm opening. So patient visits, a patient ID is in patients, as well as also you'll get to see that it's also in patient visits. So sometimes you might want to get records that are that have that particular column, that particular case across both tables, and we can use what is called an inner join. So we say that first of all, we define what we want to select from the table. So we can say P. This is going to define the actual table, that's the first table, that's patient, the patients. and we say we will get the column patient ID from patients and first name from patients, last name from patients, and we define that P will be for patients. So we select those records from patients, and then we combine that table with patient visits table, specify what we're going to use for identifying that table. That's V. And then we specify the common column across both tables, and we can also put a where clause, which is a concept that we'll get to still practice more later. So yeah, so that's how we can be able to do that. So patient's visits had already loaded. We have patient's ID here. Let me just go back to healthcare day 2 and click on the SQL tab that we need. So click on SQL tab at the very top. This is where we can paste our command, our SQL statement. So copy this statement, you can highlight or just click on copy at the far right, then paste it here, and then you can just click on go, and we should be able to get patient ID, first name and last name for those records. So we have these records, 3 records that have a reason from the patient visits is flu symptoms. So these 3 patients exhibited flu symptoms. Yeah, so that's what we can do. Pause the video and then work on the challenge to just practice working on that concept. Just note that the challenges are only in section 1, just to get to, for those who are new, we don't have any other challenges in other sections, just only in section 1. All right. Joining multiple tables. So in our case here, we have seen that we can just work with 2 tables, but what if we wanted to maybe join patients, patient visits, and also treatments to be able to answer some research questions? So what we would do, we can say select, so the columns that we want from the different tables, but we can use join. So instead of inner join, you can also use join, but this would default to an inner join. So you can use join or inner join. So join patients visits, we are joining patients as well as patient visits as well as treatment. So we've defined how we want to join patients and patient visits here, but then we also define that we also want to join now treatments with also patient visits. So we also define our inner join and how we want to join treatments as well as patient visits. Why is it patient visits? Because here V is what you see here and T is what you see here. So here we are joining 3 tables and retrieving the following information about those 3 tables. So run that, copy, paste, and paste that here. And go, press go. Should take a few seconds and you should be able to get now information like the first name and last name is from patients, visit date is from patient visits, and also treatment name is from the treatments table. And you can export this data by going to export at the very bottom and then export it as either CSV, you can export it as a PDF. Not sure why you'd want to do that. You can export it as different formats that you would want. There are a few, even SQL format, and probably use it in another tool. It could even be just in Excel. It could also be in Python environment or Jupyter Notebooks or in another environment. So you could, this is how we can export, then use CSV, then just just go, and you should be able to download that. Let me just go back to where there was just a SQL tab. All right, pause the video and then work on the challenge. All right, moving on. So we've seen how to work with an inner join, so left join. So sometimes you might want to get records, all the records, assuming that you have 2 tables, let's say patients as well as patient visits. So we have patients, patient visits. We might want to get, with an inner join, we get the records, only the records which have a common value based on the common column. So if there are records which have common values across both multiple tables, then you would, the inner join would give us those records. But in some situations, we might want to get maybe all records on the left hand side, so on the patients table. But again, we also want to include the ones that are common with also patient visits. But the ones that are not common on the other side of patient visits, we don't want that information. So here, we are able to retrieve all records in the left table. So that's the first table, that's patient's table. And also include those matching records from the right table. But we don't want, if there are records which are not matching but are on the patient visits, we don't want to include them. So we use a left join for that. So here, when we are specifying the relationship, instead of just saying join, we just now use a left join. We specify a left join, and we get the the output once we've defined the two columns that we want to use for the common column. So copy that, paste that. You can also if you had maybe initially not if you had this, you can just click on edit in line, then paste your command, and then print on go. You should be able to get what you're seeing here. All right, pause the video and then work on the challenge. Awesome. In some other situations, you could still use a left join, but you might also want maybe to check for whether they are missing values across a particular column. So you can include maybe a where clause and then specify the condition. So where v visit, so in visits, patient visits table, visit ID, we might want to have that as null, and that should give us the output. Copy that, then paste that, and run that. Here we don't have any records there, so it's 0. All right, moving on. So we have left join. Right join is more like left join. The only difference is that now you want to get the records on the right hand side, all the records, but you don't want to get those records on the left hand side that have no matching record on the right. So yeah, we are retrieving all records basically from the right table, but again, also including those matching records from also the left table. So here we specify, first of all, this record, this is what we want, and then we use a right join, and we would get, you would define that relationship, and that should give us the output. Yeah. Awesome. All right, pause the video and then work on the challenge. Moving on, in some situations, let me just explain. There's also full join, which I haven't given an example, but full join just allows us to return rows where there's either a match on the left or on the right. So it would get all the records, even if they are not matching. So if there are ones with null values for respective values in the respective columns in another table, we would still be able to get those records which still do not necessarily have a match. All right, moving on. So once we have been able to get the records that are matching and not matching, we can apply now our conditions. Let's just quickly recap again, by the way. In this case, but just quickly recap before I go into now the operations, the further operations that we might perform. So assuming we have this data set, so we have this query. So we have this query, 4.1. We can just paste it. Just want to describe something. So this will just retrieve first name, last name, visit date, and doctor name, but using an inner join. Sometimes you might define, you see these P and the P that we use, and also V that we use in front of the column names. We can still leave them out, so you could still remove them in our case, and still query and be able to get the same result, because the inner join would treat them as still as the same table. The only thing here is just that it just helps us to know which table it belongs to by specifying that. But essentially, by having that, we're able to by removing that, it makes it feel like we are actually working with one table, which would be, the output would actually be the thing here. It's as if we are working with one big table. Yeah, so that is something that I just wanted to also bring out. You could also do that. But again, there's a challenge that just helps you to reinforce the idea still of combining data from multiple tables. So work on that challenge as well. So pause the video. Once you have done that, we can move on to filtering results. And So once we have been able to define, so this is what we have. So the first name, last name comes from patient, visit dates come and reason come from patient visits. So assuming we have already our query here, we can apply a condition. So from our previous course on Introduction to SQL, which is the previous course before this one, we got to see how we can work with the where clause, as well as specify the values that we would want to use, maybe for checking whether, you know, that the records have values in a certain column between a certain value and another one. So you say select all of that from you know, those two patients, from those from the inner join, and then we specify where visit date, which visit date we can still remove the v, it might not be necessary. So visit date is between that year, that particular date, and this other particular date. So let's run that and see what happens. And yeah, this is what we have. So yeah, pause the video and then work on the challenge. All right, sorting results. So in some other cases, we might want to sort instead of just using the where clause. So if we have this as the data, we might want maybe to order by maybe visit date. So we just use the order by clause and then visit date column, and we specify in descending order. So we want the values ordered in descending order, and you can also do ascending by ASC. Again, if you are not sure, I would highly recommend Introduction to SQL. Let's do the editing line, paste that. Awesome work, guys. Awesome. All right, moving on, we are now going into subqueries. So subqueries allow you to use multiple queries to be able to get data from multiple tables. So it's another approach of doing, let's say, something like an inner join. And also not only inner joins, but you could also do other complex operations. So for example, we might want to, first of all, select records that's from patient's table with patient ID values, which we would get from this inner query. So this particular query. So this query would give us a list of patient IDs from patient visits, with the facility ID 1. So once we get those list of patient IDs, we can then use this particular outer query to retrieve those records with those patient IDs. This is a concept that we also covered for using the in keyword in Introduction to SQL, so you could always cover or refer to that as well. So copy that and check, paste that. We have 2. Awesome. 5.2. Let's move on to 5.2. Pause the video and then work on the challenge, by the way. All right. So in this other case, we're going to also to learn that we can also use an inner join. So we can do some inner join, and the results of that, again, by the way, we can still use an inner join, but again, define our where clause, which is also as a result of an this is our inner join. So we will get the visit dates with reason equals to flu symptoms from the patient's visits table. Then that list of visit dates, we can use that as part of the where clause for the query, for the outer query that combines data from patients and patient visits. And yeah, and we get the output of that. The beauty about this is that you can even have a table. By the way, the beauty about subqueries, you can get maybe a list of maybe some data that is in a table that's not necessarily related even to what you're doing here. And that might give you maybe some reasonable information or some meaningful information that you can answer research questions with. So yeah, let's do that, copy that, and then paste that, edit, paste. And you should be able to see what you're seeing here. Awesome. All right, 5.3. Let's move on. Pause the video and then work on the challenge. We can also check for existence of records within a particular table. Still, also with subqueries. So, for example, in the inner query, we can say select one. This is a way of just stating whether, or looking for records whether they exist within a table. So We can select one to just be able to check whether there's a record, at least one record that exists within patient visits, where that same where they both have a patient ID values across patients table and also patient visits, and the reason is follow-up appointment. So if there is, then we will get to print out the first name and last name of those particular records. So let's copy that and paste that here. I think we need more practice work for existence, maybe for all of that. But yeah, you can see now we have this particular record for that particular case. All right, pause the video and then work on the challenge. All right, okay, I think that's it with regards to MySQL. Set operations is something that I wanted to add that you might find across other different data sources, but it's not necessarily supported in the MySQL database that many organizations use. The newer versions of MySQL may not necessarily support that. And union, basically, this is a union operator, would combine the results of two queries. So if we selected maybe got records, patient visit records from this patient visits table with facility ID 1 and also another one for patient facility ID 2, which you could still rewrite efficiently using keyword. So you can just in 1 and 2. You can be able to work with this. So this will just simply return patient ID and visit dates with facility IDs across both cases. But you can use this in some situations, but this would give you records without the duplicate values. If they're duplicate values, then you wouldn't get here. But if they're duplicate values, you can use, if you want to take into consideration of duplicate values, you just say union all, and you also get all duplicate values, assuming that the records that you have here are also somewhat similar. Yeah, the challenges for those two, but again, that's just a concept I wanted to introduce at the very end to just help you just understand where that comes in. So I think so far what we've covered has been useful. I hope it has been useful, and if it has been, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It helps us to know that we're creating useful resources. And if also you'd want to be informed when we post such future learning resources, be sure to subscribe. This is day 2 of the series that we are doing. There will also be a day 3 that will focus on just being able to do some data administration work with SQL. So be sure to subscribe and work on that as well. If you would want to get more resources, also consider becoming an Afterwork member, and you'll get all the resources that we have on our platform. Right, all the best in your learning journey. Be sure to subscribe and join us next time. See you. Bye-bye.